Welcome to Marketing 101. This seminar is going to help us understand kind of the basics of marketing. What's a brand, what's a position, what's a strategy, and hopefully give you the tools to be able to market anything, whether it be a product, a new business, or a film that you're looking to kind of circulate through the kind of process to get films into the right hands. So to start, who am I? Hi, I'm Kristin. And yes, that is a picture of me next to Paula Abdul. This is your first lesson. Marketing is essentially all about how you want to be seen. And right now, I want to be seen as the type of person that may hang out with Paula Abdul, even though that is not true. But why am I credible? Why am I qualified to teach this seminar? I have been in the marketing world for about 12 years now. I got my start actually as a receptionist at an ad agency and worked my way up to becoming a copywriter and then a creative director, and spent 5 years in the agency kind of just understanding all of the ins and outs of marketing, producing a ton of commercials for major brands like Purina and Blistex and Ciroc and Applegate Rum and a bunch of others, kind of running the gamut from dog food to whiskey. After that, I went off on my own and I started my own business consulting startups and small businesses and musicians and actors and people that kind of needed help with their brands. They needed help kind of saying, hey, I have a talent, I have a service, I have a product, but how am I going to tell people about it? And what does it look like? So I spent a good amount of time just kind of helping give people the tools that they needed to be able to kind of effectively communicate what their brand was for. And that led me to a company called Lion Tea. I co-founded a dandelion tea company with a few other people where I served as the director of marketing. And when you say startup, this was a startup. You stare at a blank piece of paper and you have a product. We had a really awesome dandelion tea. And then it becomes, well, what do we call it? And what does the packaging look like? And how do we tell people about it? And those are kind of all of the marketing questions that you have to ask yourself before you can really put your product out there into the market. That kind of fell to the wayside a bit. I spent about 2 years in the startup world and I missed health insurance. So now I work for BuzzFeed, which, if you're not familiar, is a big media company, about third largest in the world at this point. And we are essentially kind of the pulse of the internet. We have a really good voice for pop culture and news and speak to a millennial Gen Z audience. For BuzzFeed, I work on the innovation department, and we are tasked with essentially creating stunts and experiences and kind of never been done before opportunities for our clients. Pre-pandemic, that was a lot of events and parties and like these really big germy spectacles that a ton of people would show up to. But like most of us, we've had to pivot and we have kind of just tried to see how we can do the same kind of things, reach the same amount of people at scale, but now digital. And that has kind of come with a lot of trial and error and a lot of discoveries, but we were able to invent some new formats and kind of keep the wheel spinning with innovation. So that's a bit about me, and I am going to take you through about 35 minutes of just general marketing, and then we'll open it up to some questions. We'll talk about what a brand is, positioning, some features and benefits and how they differ. What's the job to be done? We'll go through empathy and put ourselves in the shoes of the consumer. And then we'll talk a bit about, once we're all kind of said and done with our brand, how do we distribute it? How do we get our brand seen by a lot of people? So first, a brand. And when you think brand, it's not necessarily just a Nike or Apple or clothes or products. A brand could be anything. A brand is well, next slide. A brand is your reputation. It's how people see you. And you spend a lot of time, energy, and money in kind of crafting what you want that reputation to be. In the case of marketing movies, that is very granular with who your audience is and what is your content about. and what is your poster going to look like? And all of those things kind of have to be add up really nicely in order for people to kind of identify with your brand. So for example, these aren't brands, these are logos. And these brands, these companies have spent countless amounts of dollars and time and energy so that when you see that apple, your mind automatically goes to, you know, sleek design and to think different. Or when you see that Nike swoosh, just do it kind of plays immediately after the fact. So the logo is really an output of all of the characteristics that you put into what your brand is. So this is a little bit of an exercise. It's meant to be interactive, but I'll kind of just be the interaction for us here. So if I showed you a picture of this couch, you know, what would you say about this couch? You might say that it is plush looking and it has, you know, sturdy legs and it looks comfortable, or it doesn't look comfortable. But then when I show you this couch, your mind changes. Now all of a sudden this couch is sleek and it's well designed, and there may be charging stations within the cushions, or perhaps it's attached to some sort of app that, you know, analyzes how you sit and makes sure that you can kind of adjust yourself to sit even better. When I put that apple on that couch becomes a completely different couch. Same is true again. Now what is this couch? This couch is completely different than the couch you just saw before. You know, now this couch is sexy. This couch may have been in Hugh Hefner's palace. This couch is kind of meant for maybe something that's, you know, not normally what couches are for. It completely changes what you appear, or what the couch appears to be. And brands have the power to do that. It's really, again, this now completely different couch. This is your family couch. This is the most magical couch on the planet. And this is where you come to sit and watch all of your, you know, wonderful Disney films. So just that subtle change in logo and design automatically shifts your perception to what the benefits of that thing is. In short, brands kind of help people decide, especially now when we are faced with so many different types of things. There's so many categories of just basic necessities like skincare. You know, it's not just one or two products, there's millions. So how could we possibly understand which ones are for us? And that's what brands help people do. They help us decide. They're that shortcut to say, you know, if I see that Apple logo on something, I know and I trust that it's going to be well designed, it's going to be sleek, and it's going to kind of fuel my creativity. And they're really, really hard to establish. The fact that, you know, Apple, you could look at that logo and immediately think of all of the things that Apple has done has taken, you know, years to establish. But that credibility and that brand can shift on the drop of the dime. If we look at the example for Exxon, they will forever be attached to the oil spill in the late 80s. And that's something that will tarnish their brand likely for the rest of its history. So you have to be really careful about keeping the integrity of your brand, because once you change the perception in the consumer's mind, it's really, really hard to get it back. This is a little clip that I put in here to kind of show how brands aren't just, you know, the commercial products that you see. People use branding and marketing in every single facet of their lives. And this is a really cool kind of just anecdote from the movie American Gangster, where he is confronting Cuba Gooding Jr. for essentially disrupting the brand of his drugs. So let's just pause a minute and I will play this and kind of just let you guys watch.
That's not what I came here for, Nick. Yeah, everybody's good, Nick. You know, everybody's happy. Charlie, Baz, the Italians, you know, Johnny Lowe, everybody's happy except you. I'm happy, Frank. You happy? Really? Or maybe I'm the one with a problem. Yeah, go on, get it. I got a problem because I don't understand why you got to take something that's perfectly good and mess it up. See, brand names mean something. You see? Shut the fuck up! Go ahead, Frank. I'm sorry about that bullshit. Blue Magic, that's a brand name. Like Pepsi, that's a brand name. I stand behind it. I guarantee it. They know that, even if they don't know me any more than they know the chairman of General Mills.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is when you chop my dope down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, and then you call it Blue Magic, that is trademark infringement. You understand what I'm saying?
With due respect, Frank, if I buy something, I own it.
No, that ain't true. That ain't
Buy
true.
a car and I
You're
want
wrong
to paint
right
it, I
there.
can paint the
Yeah, but you
motherfucker.
don't have to. This is what I'm saying to you, Dick. You don't have to. It's good enough the way it is. You can make enough money off it the way it is just by calling it Blue Magic. Anything more than that is greed, son.
What do you want, Frank? I want to change the name on it?
I would have to insist that you change the name.
Fine by me, Frank. I'll call it Red Magic.
There you
Even
go.
though they don't sound as good.
I don't give a fuck what you call it. Put a chokehold on the motherfucker and call it blue dog shit. You know what I mean? I don't care. Just don't let me catch you doing this again.
All right. I apologize for any language there, but it's a really cool example of what it means to disrupt the integrity of a brand. If I bought a Coca-Cola or liters of Coca-Cola and then watered all of that Coca-Cola down and resold it and still called it Coca-Cola, that disrupts the integrity of Coca-Cola because it's not what I'm giving people. I'm giving them Coca-Cola with water in it. And these tactics kind of are meant to, like I said in the beginning, really establish what your reputation is. And once that reputation is tarnished, it's really difficult to get it back. Okay, so next we're going to move on to positioning. Once we kind of have our brand in order and we know what we look like, we know what we sound like, we know who we are, then we go to positioning. And this is essentially the place that your brand occupies in the minds of consumers and how it distinguishes itself from the products of competitors. So typically when we do brand positioning, we'll look to this axis and we'll put 2 qualities on each of the arrows and we'll decide where our brand falls along the lines. So as an example here, you pick 2 qualities. Typically for toothbrushes is the example that I'm using here. Brands are competing over price and power. And you can see that you have your cheaper toothbrushes that are a little bit more affordable, but they're probably not as efficient. And you have your more expensive ones that are probably best on the market, but are very pricey. So that's kind of the conversation you want to have with yourself, because it's okay to fall along anywhere or any place on this axis. But once you're there, that will then influence a lot of other decisions that kind of come after it. You know, if you are a $260 toothbrush, you're probably not going to be sold, you know, at a bodega behind the counter. You know, you're going to put yourself on a higher pedestal and you're going to want to be seen as this kind of luxury product that you're deciding to put yourself or position yourself as. So a good position kind of fills a hole in the market. You know, you kind of notice maybe there isn't really that many powerful toothbrushes out there. So you want to kind of lean into that. But a great position kind of repositions the competition. With this example, if you guys are familiar with the Quip toothbrush, this competed over price and design. So it's not claiming to be the most powerful toothbrush, but it looks different. It's sleeker and it's affordable. And it still has all of the components of some of these other toothbrushes by being, you know, kind of electric and powered, but it is much more affordable and it just looks cooler in your pocket. And Quip was able to beat out all of their competitors by simply looking or shifting what they're competing over. So next kind of come the features and the benefits and the reasons to believe in your brand, or the things that you can expect out of that brand. So they don't have to be factual, you know, but they do have to be supported by the benefits. You want to know that the Apple computer that you purchase is actually going to help you fulfill your creative dreams. And it's going to have those benefits that will help move the needle for your kind of professional or artistic endeavor, because that's what they promise. They promise that they'll help you to do that. So if those, the features and the benefits of that computer don't help aid that promise, then that kind of jeopardizes the integrity of the brand a little bit. Coca-Cola, for instance. You see Coca-Cola and they are promising you happiness. But a feature of Coke is that it's just sweet. It's a sweet soda that tastes good. But the benefit that you get from it is that nostalgia, that kind of instant joy, and it makes you happy. So we'll talk a little bit about the difference between features and benefits. So if we take this drill here, this is all the features that it claims to have. It's got a 2-speed gearbox and a 1/2-inch chuck and LED work light, and all of these really splashy kind of titles to tell you that this thing is kind of equipped with multiple ways to get the job done. But the benefits are that it makes holes and it completes projects for you and it helps you feel prepared. So the features are going to kind of be the thing that tells you that the benefits that this thing does are better than the other brand. And they have more features, they have more, kind of, I guess assets to the product itself. But really, at the end of the day, drills make holes. So we got to be clear about, what your features of each brand are, and then what are the benefits that it serves for the consumer. Features you kind of can't deny. If you build the drill to have an LED light in it, then it is going to have an LED light in it. But benefits, that is where you have the opportunity to kind of tap into something bigger. It depends on who you're talking to, but if you want to position your drill as being, the best friend of a handyman, the one that is always in your truck, the one that you go to for every single project, then you're going to have to be really clear about the benefits that it's going to provide to that person that carries a drill with them at all times. And it doesn't want to just make holes. It wants to make perfect holes. It wants to, be a reliable product that somebody that uses it often can trust. Here's another clip just because Mad Men, is great. And this is a really good example of how you can reposition something that kind of similar to the toothbrushes, how you can reposition the competition where everyone's over here competing for the same things. And then you look over here and then you kind of see a gap in the market and you can kind of go and you can fill that gap. And all of a sudden you'll see eyeballs kind of drawing to you. So let's play this and watch this scene.
Come on, Dad. Let's get out of here. The bright spot is, at least we know if we have this problem, everybody has this problem.
Gentlemen, before you leave, can I just say something?
I don't know, Don. Can you?
The Federal Trade Commission and Reader's Digest have done you a favor. They've let you know that any ad that brings up the concept of cigarettes and health together, well, it's just going to make people think of cancer.
Yes, and we're grateful to them.
But what Lee Jr. said is right. If you can't make those health claims, neither can your competitors.
So, we got a lot of people not saying anything that sells cigarettes.
Not exactly. This is the greatest advertising opportunity since the invention of cereal. We have 6 identical companies making 6 identical products. We can say anything we want. How do you make your cigarettes? I don't know.
Shame on you. We breed insect-repellent tobacco seeds, plant them in the North Carolina sunshine, grow it, cut it, cure it, toast it.
There you go. There you go.
Everybody else's tobacco is toasted.
No, everybody else's tobacco is poisonous. Lucky Strikes is toasted.
Well, gentlemen, I don't think I have to tell you what you just witnessed here.
I think you do.
Advertising is based on one thing: happiness. And you know what happiness is? Happiness is the smell of a new car. It's freedom from fear. It's a billboard on the side of the road that screams with reassurance that whatever you're doing, it's okay. You are okay.
It's toasted. I get it.
Amazing. Gives me chills. I love Don Draper. But that is just such a good example when the conversation of cancer and cigarettes started to emerge in the 70s. Cigarettes should have been done, should have been off the market. But with effective advertising, you can pivot that conversation to talk about something that nobody else is talking about. All right, now let's get to the JTBD. These are kind of insights based. That means this is the job to be done. And we're going to put kind of our consumer hats on for this and think about what it is that they're thinking about when they're looking to purchase these brands or interact with these brands or engage with these brands. So people buy toothpaste because we have to brush our teeth. But why? Why do we have to brush our teeth? No one says that you have to brush your teeth. But we brush our teeth because we want strong white teeth and a confident smile in social situations. Toothpaste really gives us confidence. The same is true for grocery stores. Everyone needs to go to the grocery store, but everybody's reason for going to the grocery store is different. And every grocery store serves a different purpose. Since everybody needs to buy food, everyone needs to go grocery shopping. But that doesn't mean every single store that you walk into needs to be exactly the same, because people are there for very different reasons. I'm in New York, so these are a bunch of New York grocery stores, but they serve different purposes. I might go to the food town to go pick up, just a carton of milk because I ran out. But I might look to Fresh Direct to do my kind of big grocery haul because it comes right to my door. So all of the things that I need for the week, maybe I want to put that on Fresh Direct because it will just be easy for me and will be right at my doorstep. Whole Foods is a bit more of a specialty market. That's maybe where I get my kind of expensive sauces and spices and things that are for kind of people that cook and care a little bit more about the ingredients that you are putting into your meals and your dishes. And Balducci's, that is a really expensive butcher shop, essentially, where you can get really fine cuts of meat. If I'm going to throw a dinner party and I want to pick up a bunch of really, nice pieces of filet mignon, I'm not going to go to Food Town to get that kind of meat because I'm looking to impress people. I'm looking to have a dinner party. So I'll go to Balducci's and I'll spend that extra money and put that extra care into that, to getting meat at a different place, because I want my dinner party to kind of be as special as possible. Then we get into empathy, and this is kind of a little bit about, what your strategy is, what your strategy for marketing your brand and positioning your brand and how you're going to get it out there. So once you kind of establish who you are, how you want to position yourself, and what you're looking to solve for the consumer, you should ask yourself a couple questions. Who are you trying to change? Who is your audience? In the case of the toothbrushes, your audience, if it's a really high-end toothbrush, those people probably make a little bit more money and they can afford to spend $260 on a toothbrush. And then how are you trying to change them? What kind of behaviors are you looking to get out of them after they purchase your product? And what is the promise that you're making them? Once they commit to your brand, what are they going to get out of it? And then how are we presenting this promise to them? So like literally, how are we kind of showing up for them in day-to-day life? How are they going to see that toothbrush? How are they going to know that your brand exists? And we'll get into that a bit next. So this is kind of the distribution. Once you're kind of really confident, you know who you are, you know who you're talking to, then you kind of have to start introducing yourself to people. And there are so many ways to do this. There are commercials, there are radio spots and billboards and newsletters and parties and PR stunts and word of mouth and TikToks and social. And there's so many mechanisms for you to tell your story, or big splashy kind of look at me statements that are going to make those people act. But you don't need to do all of them. It's really, you shouldn't do all of them. And depending on what your budget looks like, you can get really kind of tactical about the ones that make the most sense for the thing that you're looking to achieve. So this kind of becomes a bit clearer when you really have a good understanding of who your brand is. Then you can introduce yourself to the people and the places who would like you best. Apple doesn't, go around and try to talk to a bunch of people that don't use computers or that don't value, product design. That's just not the people that are going to like them. So they don't waste any time talking to those people. I used a film example here because I used to work for a production company that made this film called Daddy Issues, and we employed a lot of the marketing tactics that we use with commercial products for filmmaking, and it was really, really successful. This movie, Daddy Issues, is about a father and a daughter who are in love with the same woman. So it's a really compelling plot, and it was made at a time where there wasn't a lot of LGBTQIA content. So they really had an opportunity to speak to an audience that was underserved. So everything they did kind of targeted that community, and they took the movie making a step further and, created a whole social handle for it and employed a social strategy to get people interested in the film before they were even able to see it. And the lead actress in the film is an artist. So they commissioned a bunch of artwork that they turned into merchandise for sale. Again, before people even got to see the movie, before it was released anywhere publicly, they were starting to develop an understanding for what the aesthetic of this movie is and what the content that they could expect. And then they went and they shopped around to a bunch of different film festivals that were that met their market, and ended up getting on Netflix, because Netflix saw this as content that was needed for the masses. They saw an opportunity to fill essentially a category that was underserved. And because this movie was kind of so clear about who they were speaking to, it was kind of an easy way or an easy sell to fit into the LGBTQIA category on Netflix. So it's on Netflix, Daddy Issues. It's a really great film. You should check it out. And this kind of last example is something that I saw over quarantine, and I was so impressed. You can't be afraid to kind of get creative with your distribution. If you have zero money at all, there are still things that you can do to get yourself noticed. So this might leave the presentation, but I want to quickly set up this band. They, poor things, they just got signed to a record label and then the world shut down. So they just, pre-pandemic got signed to a major record label, and they were going to be gearing up to go on tours and to kind of release albums and to work with management. But the world shut down, so their contract got put on hold. And in quarantine, they came out with this really, really cool, catchy song. But the record label wouldn't let them put it out in the traditional way. They wouldn't let it go up on Spotify, or they wouldn't put any marketing behind it because they just didn't think that it was the right time. So these girls took to TikTok to release the song anyway. And I'll click on this link here because it's a really cool example of what happens when you kind of are a little bit bold and a little bit creative and go out and just distribute for yourself.
So 14 million of you have seen this video, and a lot has happened since then. 5 million streams on Spotify. Rolling Stone literally 70,000 followers on Spotify, and a bunch of playlists. People getting our lyrics literally tattooed on their body. They're playing it on the radio, pop radio. And then this happened like 2 minutes ago, and we're freaking out. What? This is literally all because of you guys. TikTok. You did this. You're making our dreams come true. What? We love you so much. What the heck? We love you. God, we're so grateful for you. And thank you for listening and streaming and sharing and telling your friends about it. We love you. So 14 million of you have seen.
Okay. So I love that example because it forced these girls to get really clear about who their music was for and what their brand was about. And they decided it wasn't about being part of a record label. It was about releasing their music to their fans. And they did it, and they did it well. And all this, the song became a huge hit anyway. And it is just really cool to see that we can kind of continue to redefine the way things get sold and the way that we kind of market ourselves. It's kind of an ever-changing process, and it's really fun to kind of innovate new ways to distribute things. So I know that that was a lot, and ideally I would have liked to kind of pause for questions as I was going through all of it, but I would like to kind of stop now and see if there's any questions from you guys that I can help answer. Maybe there's a film or a project that you're working on that you may need a little bit help marketing. I'd love to kind of use this time to maybe brainstorm a bit on how to kind of make your brands possible. What are some new ideas you have for products, and what is your dream brand to work for? Very cool. So that's a really good question. I part of my job is just thinking of new ideas every day. But something that I've been super excited about lately is the concept of trash. There's trash everywhere, and I think that we can use brands to help clean it up. And let me give you an example. So brands are like constantly trying to kind of be a part of the conversation, the social conversation, the environmental conversation. They want to be where consumers are, and they want to solve problems that consumers have. And right now, a lot of consumers are concerned about the environment. So I want to work with a brand like Glad trash bags and create some sort of like trash wars between states where people are essentially to gamify picking up trash, so that you can kind of be part of a team and you pick up as much trash as possible and you can win prizes for it. And they all go into Glad bags. So Glad bag will kind of reap the benefits from that stunt. But I am really excited about ideas that make the world better. Marketing is oftentimes, in the case of cigarettes, when you're trying to divert the fact that they're poisonous and call them toasted instead, it's seen as kind of opportunistic and a way to make money. And I think that we're seeing that change a lot because now we're forced to care. And it is something that I think about a lot. And I think that there's a really big opportunity for brands to kind of step up a little bit and put those marketing dollars behind things that can actually change the world in terms of social justice, in terms of environment, just in terms of kind of well-being. So Glad trash bags, to answer your question. I'm looking to market a book by my husband, wrote called Gods of Whatever. How would you recommend marketing a coffee table book? So first I would look to what the content of the book is about. And I would get really clear on what the benefit the consumer is going to get from that book. Who are the types of people that are going to be reading that book or gifting that book? A coffee table book is a lot of the times given as a gift. So you may want to look into different kind of gifting catalogs, or you can take out, depending if you have a budget or not, you can kind of look to certain publications to put ads on the right ones. So Gods of Whatever, maybe this is a kind of DIY handyman book, and it is a place that will give you, 100 DIY kind of crafts that you can do at home. And it's a coffee table book. So you would want to give that to somebody that loves to craft, and you would want to market it into magazines or publications that those people are visiting frequently. I would really just kind of come up with a simple kind of what is your one-liner? What is your kind of elevator pitch? What is your, like, who is your audience and the type of people that are going to be buying this book? And you don't have to be right, because you don't necessarily know a lot of the time. Sometimes you have a book and you see that somebody that like a consumer that is not like who you anticipated is actually buying the book. But you got to make an educated guess, and you have to kind of be really clear about who you are and what the problem is that you're solving, and then start to look to places that also solve those problems. And again, depending on budget and things like that, there are a number of ways that you can kind of take out ads, or you can get written up in editorials. You can get on a list that's like the best gifts to give dad this Father's Day. I would define yourself as a brand, and then I would follow the clues that take you to where your consumer is. I love the idea of trash wars, but where does the trash go? We would have to create kind of dump sites where the trash would go, and hire professionals to then kind of package that up and take it to where all of the trash goes, which we need to probably have a better process of as well. Another question, what is your opinion of passion projects of well-known products? Is it worth it? I see. Like, what if you were to maybe make a video of a product, but you haven't been commissioned to make that video? Got it. I think it's awesome. I think that that is the most sincere form of flattery for the brand. I think depends on if you're looking to follow the guidelines that the brand has already put forth, if you're going to create like a Nike-esque video, or if you're going to interpret that your own way, because that becomes a little bit more unique, that becomes a little bit more yours. And it also depends on what your intention is. If the intention is that Nike is going to buy it, I would say that's pretty unlikely. But if the intention is for you to just create a piece of art for a brand that you can then use to get yourself into the doors of other places, and potentially, you know, down the line, maybe a Nike. But I think all passion projects are worth it. And if you have a really cool idea for Nike, then I say go for it. And you never know. I feel like you never know who you're going to run into and how and who's going to see it. So especially now, the likelihood of that idea coming across Nike's eye line is pretty high. The problem is Nike could steal it. And they could steal it, and because it's their brand, you can't really do anything about it. They can kind of essentially take your idea and reshoot it with using their own kind of talent and equipment, and you likely won't get any credit for it. But I still say, you know, go for it. You never know what can happen when you do those passion projects. How is BuzzFeed doing in this pandemic? BuzzFeed is doing really well because we were all forced to be online a lot more. And I really love the company because they adhere to their values of just truth and joy. And they have done excellent reporting on the chaos of 2020 and 2021. And they've kind of kept authentic. And then likewise, they've created content that really, you know, keeps people sane and keeps people happy. And they're able to draw real insights from feelings that we're all feeling and create content that kind of, I guess, kind of makes us feel a little bit better, makes us feel connected, makes us feel together. And these virtual kind of events have actually been really cool because we're discovering some new mechanisms on how we can connect with our consumers. So we've been learning a lot. We've certainly had to pivot a lot of what we used to be doing to what we're doing now. But I'd say all in all, because we've kept the integrity of our brand, we're always about truth and joy, regardless of whether or not, you know, the world is feeling joyful. And we look for ways to kind of make sure that that brand is still coming through regardless of the time. Elevator pitch. Who is your audience? Taking notes. So an elevator pitch for what? Or just in general, like how would you create an elevator pitch? I'll answer that question, like what's a good elevator pitch? Elevator pitches actually are great to create for any idea, even if you're not in an elevator pitching it to someone, because it allows you to then say out loud what your idea is quickly and then get other people to respond to whether or not it's a good idea. So I think a really good elevator pitch takes the best parts of your idea and condenses it into the kind of simplest statement where I can just look at someone and say, I want to have New York versus LA trash wars. We're going to pick up all the trash from those two cities. And, depending on who's in the elevator, or what their interests are, they may be into it or not. But I think if any idea, any movie, any product, any business, you should have a really, really clear elevator pitch that simply states what you are, who you're for, and how you're going to get it done. Can you give a quick bullet list of how to market a movie? Yeah, again, there's not just any one way, but I would start with what that movie is, what it's about, what it is meant to make the consumer feel, what category does it fall in, all of that. Get really clear on the brand of the movie and the types of people that are going to be watching it. And then you go where those people are. So if you create a movie about sustainability, you're going to want to go and put yourself in front of people that are also passionate about sustainability. So I would, they ask for a bullet list. So bullet list, brand, figure out who your brand is and who you're talking to. Then go to where those people are. So if there's a sustainability film festival, absolutely you should be in there. Third, you have to kind of be ruthless and diligent and be everywhere that you can be based on whatever budget that you have. If you are on social, I would create a whole other marketing plan for your social media for your movie. So you end up making way more content after the movie is made than maybe even while the movie was being filmed. You want to create little sizzle reels. You want to create trailers. You want to show up in people's news feeds and talk about why this movie is a must-see movie. Then I would hit up all major streaming services. Right now, streaming services, as we all know, are kind of everywhere, and they're looking for content. They're looking to fill gaps because they can't be underserved in any market, especially now when we're really looking to have full equality in all areas of industry, especially in film. Look for the interests that people have and then make content that these streaming services don't provide. So I think, that last step, you have to get a bit ruthless. You might have to go on LinkedIn and find, people that can connect you to the people that kind of vet the projects and the content that goes onto these streaming services. But just don't stop. Don't stop putting your movie out there until someone wants to play it. Thank you so much for everybody that has showed up or who is watching it after the fact. I will drop my email address in the chat right here. And if anyone has any further questions, feel free to email me and I'd be happy to kind of have a longer discussion on some of the projects that you guys are working on and maybe helping you come up with a marketing plan for it. I know that this was a lot of information at once, but hoping that it was helpful.